always tell me twice.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our City Commission meeting of April 24th, 2025. Glad to have you here in a nice air-conditioned room. We're going to start off today opening prayer with Reverend Thomas Kennel, from pastor of St. John Evangelist, and then Josh Shaw is going to come and lead us in the pledge. So, Reverend Kennel, please stand.
Thank you for having me again. Let us pray. Lord God, we come before you this afternoon. First of all, just in gratitude for the gift of life and all of creation, especially in this springtime, as we even see the mystery of death and resurrection all about us. And Lord, in this time of transition, as we are coming up to it, both locally, nationally, internationally, with different leaders stepping up, we ask that for those who've been given authority or who will be given authority, that all would have eyes for the common good, for the upholding of the dignity of all life, and for respect for all persons, for mutual understanding, for listening ears. And Lord, we ask your blessing upon this meeting today, that all that will be discussed here will result in what is best for our community. And we ask your blessing upon especially our students as they begin to wrap up the school years and head towards the summer, that all would be able to finish strong. We ask your blessing upon our first responders, all those who have care and concern for others and put themselves in harm's way, for our military. We continue to ask your blessing upon all those, especially in our community. And may your will be done, Lord, in all things, especially through the proceedings here this afternoon. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Mr. Shaw.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, in which republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Mayor Owen,
Here.
Commissioner Halligus.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Commissioner Granger.
Present.
Commissioner Street is out on city business. Mayor, you have quorum.
Thank you. You've all had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Smith, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Halligus.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Mayor Owen.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications of today's agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Staff has a couple. The first one would be an addition. Following the consent agenda, Commissioner Lucas would like to have some time to address the commission and direct a combined letter of support opposing several items and supporting several items currently in front of our state legislature. So again, that would immediately follow the consent agenda. And then the modifications.
So will that be 8M? Is it?
I mean, I guess you could make it 8M, you could, sir, or just have insert the, commissioner's report ahead of the city attorney. And then also inside of the consent agenda, just got to make some modifications so that you and the commissioners are aware. 8E as in echo and 8G as in golf. Both of those would begin with consideration of authorization. I can't even read my own handwriting. Consideration of authorization of contract and award of the bid. So again, 8 echo and 8 golf would be simply revised for the opening statement to be consideration of authorization of the contract and the award of the respective bid.
Okay.
And that would be the 3 adjustments from staff, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept those additions?
I'll move a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halligus.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Mayor Owen.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. Any other additions, deletions, or modifications? No? All right. Moving on, we're going to have the proclamation for the National Letter Carrier Food Drive. Okay, make yourself, won't you? Okay. Somebody can be able to see. Thank you all for coming forward. Whereas the annual National Letter Carrier Food Drive has aided not only its local community, but the nation as a whole tremendously in the last 30 years of tradition, and whereas individuals who serve as members or volunteers of the Letter Carriers Union found a calling in serving their fellow neighbors in need through dedicating the second Saturday in May of every year, collecting non-perishable food items as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks. And whereas the first National Letter Carrier Food Drive was piloted in 1991, held in 10 cities throughout the United States. On May 15, 1993, the National Letter Carrier Food Drive made it their mission to grow their donation collection each year by promoting and encouraging as many as National Letter Carrier Food Drive branches as possible throughout the country to participate. And whereas the results of the National Letter Carrier Food Drive in May of 1993 was outstanding, with more than 11 million pounds of food donated and collected in a single day, and over 1.9 billion pounds of food as of 2023. And whereas these generous donations benefit various charities and local food banks across the nation by assisting families from all over during times of disaster or need, and whereas each year these National Letter Carrier Food Drive heroes selflessly dedicate themselves for the good and betterment of their community. Now, therefore, I, Michael X. Rowan Sr., by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Panama City, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 10th, 2025 as National Letter Carrier Food Drive Day. So congratulations to all you volunteers.
Thank you very much.
So, she's got a, oh, yes, actually, want to bring something.
Yes.
You want to talk?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't expecting
Here's the
to.
microphone.
Yeah, okay. Hi.
Much stuff.
Oh, thank you. Apologies. Hi, I'm Robin Marshall. I am with the local Woodman Life Chapter 406 here to present NAUC, a sponsorship donation for their annual food drive. It is perfect. So on behalf of Woodman Life and Chapter 406, we wanted to continue to support y'all during this event. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, sir. Thank you. Appreciate your work.
Gotta remember which way I turned it.
The City of Panama City community announcements. Stay informed and engaged with the latest happenings in our city. We encourage you to participate in our wide range of events, programs, and meetings designed to foster a dynamic and connected community. For more details, visit our website, www.panamacity.gov, and you can also follow the City of Panama City Facebook page. A few months ago, we launched Civic Ready, our mass notification system built to keep you instantly informed on everything happening in Panama City. And if you haven't signed up yet, now's the time. Whether it's boil water notices, road closures, public meetings, or other city news, this system ensures we can deliver important information straight to your email or cell phone. No waiting for social media algorithms to catch up. Sign up now by texting Panama City to 38276 or visit our website, www.panamacity.gov, and click Notify Me button on the homepage. Here you can make selections about what kind of alerts you would like to receive, neighborhood specific or general. Make sure you add in your address and geo-targeted utility alerts also. Spring into safety with the Panama City Fire Department. It's the perfect time to take a simple step forward towards protecting your home and loved ones. The Panama City Fire Department recently launched Community Connect, a free voluntary program designed to improve emergency response times and keep our community safer. By sharing important details about your household, family members, or business, you'll help first responders make faster, smarter decisions when every second counts. Whether it's a medical need, a pet to be aware of, or property details, this info can help save lives during a crisis. Sign up today and give our firefighters the tools to better protect what matters most. Learn more and register at the panamacity.gov website. The Panama City Fire Department is working on its 5-year strategic plan. This plan aims to identify the department's direction and goals for the next 5 years and help drive its budget process. Panama City Fire Department is also seeking accreditation through the Centers of Public Safety Excellence to ensure they provide the most effective fire protection service possible. Both of these programs require input from our citizens. A short PowerPoint presentation survey and directions are available on the city website. Feedback will be accepted until July. Grab your blankets, chairs, and loved ones for an unforgettable movie by the Bay at Glenwood Community Center on Friday, April 25th. It's at 6:30 p.m. This free, family-friendly event will feature The Wild Robot, an exciting adventure that will captivate kids and adults alike. Get comfortable and enjoy a magical night of storytelling, laughter, and community fun indoors. Don't miss out. Come early, find the perfect spot, and make some amazing memories with us. Join us for our third tree giveaway, Saturday, April 26th at Oaks by the Bay Park from 8 a.m. to noon. Each household is eligible to receive up to 2 trees. This is a wonderful opportunity to beautify your property and contribute to the greening of our community. We encourage all residents to take advantage of this event and help us in our efforts to enhance the local environment. Trees will be available on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last, so be sure to arrive early to secure your choice. Join us Thursday, May 1st from 5:30 to 7:30 at Robert and Mary Kane Park, which is 2020 West 17th Street, for a Maypole Community Cookout and the 92nd birthday celebration of Mr. Robert E. Kane Sr. This special event will include family-friendly activities, a community cookout, and a spirited plotting of the Maypole competition. Come out and help us celebrate the legacy of Mr. Kane while enjoying a fun and festive evening with neighbors and friends. All right, we're moving on to the quasi-judicial hearings.
Mr. Zimmerman? Yep.
The first item we have are quasi-judicial hearings, and certain matters that come before the Panama City Commission are quasi-judicial in nature, which means that the commission will hear evidence and act in a way like a courtroom would act or judges would act. And that you will hear the evidence and then you render a decision based upon the evidence that's received. The applicant, affected parties are entitled to present evidence and cross-examine witnesses. The public will also have an opportunity to present oral or written testimony. All witnesses and the public that speak are to be sworn in and to be under oath. The entire proceedings are recorded. If you need a verbatim record, you'd need to have a court reporter here to provide that. The commission's not bound by the strict rules of evidence and may consider evidence which it deems relevant and trustworthy. Furthermore, any member of the commission can ask questions of the parties when they are here presenting or of witnesses. Since quasi-judicial hearings are legal in nature, everyone is expected to adhere to proper courtroom decorum and etiquette. The burden of proof in quasi-judicial proceedings rests with the applicant. Therefore, the applicant has the opportunity to address the commission last after all testimony and public participation deliberates. But this time, anyone that anticipates speaking during the public hearings that are labeled as quasi-judicial, if you would stand, and I will swear you in as a witness. Okay? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, item 6A is the second and final public hearing on ordinance 3261.1, an ordinance on the voluntary annexation of approximately 2.14 acres of property located at 3716 Airport Drive. Airport Drive parcel ID 13032-010-000 and 3712 Airport Drive. The applicant has requested an annexation, a future land use change, and a rezoning to General Commercial 2 or GC2. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the request. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. The following documents are enclosed: ordinance number 3261.1, the staff analysis report and recommendation, and the adopted map series. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services that the City Commission conduct a second and final public hearing and approve the ordinance.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone wish to speak on this ordinance? All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 3261.1?
I will motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has adopted ordinance 3261.1, an ordinance of the city approving the voluntary annexation of 2.14 acres of unincorporated property located at 3716 Airport Drive, different address, and 3712 Airport Drive into the city, as further defined hereinafter, amending the wards, boundaries of the city to include said land and providing for an effective date.
Item 6B is the second and final public hearing on ordinance 3261.2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of general commercial for a property located at 3716 Airport Drive parcel ID 13032-010-000 and 3712 Airport Drive. The applicant has requested an annexation, a future land use change, and a rezoning to GC2. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the request. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Following documents are enclosed. Ordinance number 3261.2. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and approve the ordinance.
This is a public hearing on ordinance 3261.2. Does any member of the public wish to speak? All right, would anybody here?
A motion we approve.
I'll second the motion. Ms. Smith?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, item 6B has been approved, ordinance 3261.2, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the city to reflect a land use designation of general commercial for a parcel of property located at 3716 Airport Drive, 3712 Airport Drive, Panama City, Florida, providing for a repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Item 6C is the second and final public hearings on ordinance 3261.3, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect the zoning designation of General Commercial 2, GC2, for a property located at 3716 Airport Drive parcel ID 13032-010-000 and 3712 Airport Drive. As background information, the applicant has requested an annexation, a future land use change, and a rezoning to GC2. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the request. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Following documents are enclosed. Ordinance number 3261.3. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and approve the ordinance.
All right, there's a public hearing on ordinance 3261.3. Does any member of the public wish to speak? All right, would any member of the commission like to make a motion?
I'll motion we move forward with it.
I'll second the motion. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has adopted ordinance 3261.3, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 3716 Airport Drive and 3712 Airport Drive, Panama City, Florida, having approximately 2.14 acres, GC2, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Item 6D is the second and final of two public hearings on ordinance 3262.1, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of general commercial for a property located at 3010 Stanford Road. As background information, the applicant has requested a future land use change and a rezoning to general commercial 1 or GC1. Planning Division staff recommends the City Commission deny the request. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval by a vote of 3-1. The following documents are enclosed. Ordinance number 3262.1, the staff analysis, report, recommendation, and public comments, and the adopted map series, including aerial, future land use, and zoning maps. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and either approve or deny the ordinance. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public meeting on ordinance 3262.1. Would anyone like to speak to that issue?
Good afternoon. Sean McNeil with McNeil Carroll Engineering, representing the applicant. The .387 acres is requested to be general commercial. The reason being is the property was developed, or the building was constructed in 1991. It's always been a commercial enterprise on that location. As well as to the south is two triplexes that are also zoned residential, single family, and diagonally is also a business, a commercial enterprise. The city used to have a conditional use permit that would allow a residential property to be commercial in this area. So we're just trying to make this property whole. The planning board did vote 3-1. Y'all heard our arguments last meeting. This map has been updated. If you went to Bay County GIS or Bay County Property Appraisers, it is a contiguous piece of property. I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? I'd like to ask who is on the staff that recommends denial. It says here the, let's see, Director of Development Services. Is that who recommends?
Yeah, so that would have been the recommendation of the Planning Division, and
Okay.
Mr. Fuller just put that forward on behalf of the Planning Division.
Okay, are they here? Is anybody?
Mr. Fuller's here.
Here he is, I see him. Can you talk about that a minute? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see somebody else up there.
Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be appropriate to have the citizens talk first before.
That's fine, I didn't see her. I agree, yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't see you, sorry.
That's okay.
Especially in that bright red.
Jennifer Bowman. Do I state my address?
Yes.
2705 Woodmere Drive. I also own property on Stanford Road that is a commercial piece of property that is zoned residential. This property's been here for years, and I do agree with it being transferred to commercial.
So you live there and you agree that it could be commercial?
Yes.
That one, okay.
There's several properties on Stanford Road that are run as a business or that are commercial buildings that are zoned residential, multiple properties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael? Oh, wait, sorry, okay.
Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services for the city. This was a tough one, but ultimately staff recommended denial mainly because it is surrounded by R1 zoning. Initially, we had thought that the parcel itself was contiguous with the properties to the north, which are zoned industrial, but as it turned out, this property is surrounded by R1, so we didn't want to recommend, spot zoning. But it is tough because, as Mr. McNeil pointed out, this building's been here quite some time. It's been a commercial use for some time. So if it remains R1, essentially it becomes a non-conforming use and a non-conforming structure, meaning that they can't expand it. If it's 50% or more of the value is damaged, they can't replace it, or whatever they do replace it has to conform with the R1 zoning. So this one was tough for us but ultimately we felt like, it would be spot zoning, and that's why we recommend denial. Planning board, however, wanted to consider the fact that it had been a commercial property since the 90s, and they felt that it was appropriate to rezone it to GC1.
Okay, thank you.
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
Would you speak to the one-time
Conditional.
that there was a conditional use permitting allowed by the city and now there isn't? Can you give us the history on that?
I can't speak to that, unfortunately. There may have been a conditional use. I didn't find that in our research, but it is very possible that is the case.
Okay.
Michael, any history on the property on what it was before it became part of the city?
I can't speak.
Do we know how it became?
Can't answer any questions. No, all I know is the data we have available is the property or parcel data, which is from the property appraiser's office, and it shows that the building itself was constructed in the 90s or 91. And
Do we know when it became residential?
Zoned residential?
Yes.
I think that was done, I think it was back when the city adopted its zoning map, so probably the 90s.
So probably after the building was constructed?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, these are tough because, I'm not a fan of spot zoning either. But they're not asking for
They're asking you to speak up.
they're not asking for a change in the use. They're just asking to be conforming with the use that they already are doing.
That's correct.
And so this is, several times we've been approached before with people who want to change the use and they're not doing currently what the use is.
That's correct.
The
impacts are already there.
But this enterprise is already there and it's already conducting this. And as I understand it, if there was some kind of accident or there was something that were to befall this building, they wouldn't be able to rebuild.
That's correct. And it's in the current situation, and they would not be able to.
They wouldn't be able to do what?
Rebuild.
Okay.
They would not be able to rebuild because it's a non-conforming use to the area. There's one parcel that separates this from industrial.
Yeah, I think I think there's another slide that shows more the zoning. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Has this ever been used for residential?
To best of my knowledge, no.
So what is it now and what will it be?
It's a commercial building, a commercial enterprise currently.
Okay.
It just happens to be zone R1.
Like offices, or is it tire repair?
It's an office building, yeah.
Okay.
And according to the applicant or the applicant's representative, it will remain or they intend for it to remain a commercial or office use.
I see. Have any of the neighbors weighed in negatively? It looked like one neighbor was just positive here a few minutes ago. Do we have any negative? It doesn't look like it.
I have not received any negative comment regarding this.
Was there anybody in the audience opposed to it at the planning board?
There was none.
See none today.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I want to apologize. I should have led more on this particular issue, so I apologize to you and the commissioners. So I know I spoke to each of you individually that I actually, as the city manager, agree with the planning board's recommendation on this. I think if you drive up and down Stanford Road in between 23rd and 390, there are a number of commercial businesses already, and it's definitely a cut through in between 23rd and 390. And Mr. Zimmerman, please correct me if I'm wrong, but in the argument could also be made that you're kind of limiting the value on this investment because they basically are forced to never sell it, because then they would lose that non-conforming waiver that they have in this. And so they might be kind of stuck with this facility or have to modify it some way to become a residential piece of property if they wanted to sell it. Is that correct?
Of course.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Oh. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct.
So, anyway, though, I just wanted to share my perspective. Again, I know this is I concur with Commissioner Granger and Mr. Fuller. This is a very difficult issue, and so, yeah.
I got a question. I'm not.
I do have a question, but I'll yield.
Oh, yeah, it's not working.
Okay.
Between 23rd Street and 390, there's a bunch of residential pieces. If those people want to get their residential zone commercial, can they do we make it easy or hard for them? Because this looks like it could become a commercial corridor, so to speak, and it might be good.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is I think it would rely more on what the actual structure is. I mean, I think if you look at these particular buildings, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fuller, but they're clearly not residential structures.
That's correct.
They're commercial structures and have been since the time they were constructed.
But if somebody like tore their house down and wanted to put a commercial building, I mean, I'm just wondering what the process.
Yeah, they would have to get their particular lot rezoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would we have a feeling to do it, yes or no, or is it too early to tell, or is it a crazy question?
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy question. I'm assuming you directed that at me. If it's up against the industry, zoned industrial, or if it's up against other zoned commercial. Again, we also have some zoned commercial, I believe, closer to 23rd Street.
That's right.
Dance studio, I'm trying to think, there's a doctor's office maybe or something over there closer to more the south part of Stanford Road. So, they could, they'd have to go through the planning board process, and eventually the decision would lie with the commission as to, as to whether it'd be appropriate. I think it's this one, again, this is very difficult to Commissioner Granger, Mr. Fuller's. It's kind of seems like spot zoning, but you're really not, because it's literally right there, and all that is in that lot above it, I believe, is a dirt driveway in between these lots and the industrial zoned footprint.
Thank you.
So please correct me if I said anything wrong, Mr. Fuller.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding 3262.1?
Commissioner Lucas,
Pardon me?
this gentleman would like to talk.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm John Underwood. I'm the owner of the property at 3010 Stanford Road. I bought it in 2001, so we've had it been there for 23 years. As the conditional
Could you
use.
come just a little closer, sir, to the
Oh, I'm
microphone?
sorry.
Thank you, sir.
The conditional, when I bought it, it was owned residential with a conditional use permit. And since that time, there's no more conditional use. It's just, like you said, if we lose it, it can't be rebuilt as a commercial facility. When I bought it, the Best Way Construction owned the property, and they'd had that for several years. Before them, it was Florida Pest Control worked out of that property for a number of years. And there were other down the line owners, but it was always the residential with a conditional use on it that, so that's, just giving you a little history and background from my perspective on that. It's always been commercial. The building itself could not be rebuilt as a house. It had to be torn down and just start from scratch. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was answered.
Anyone else want to speak to this issue?
I'd like to, if nobody else is coming up.
I'm asking the audience.
I said nobody else comes up.
Yes, ma'am. All right, you're up.
Okay.
Commissioner Halligan, can you pull your mic a little bit closer, ma'am? Thank you.
You know, I like to, no, I was going to say something funny. I'm not going to. I'm almost to the end. I need to finish clean. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just want to say that it's like, obviously the Bowmans went through this a couple times. And I am really against changing residential to commercial, except for when it's already been operating that way. I think it's really wrong because I think the city needs to take responsibility that we change the way we do things. We do rezoning sometimes and we change these things. And when these people make these investments, you know, like I spouted out just a minute ago, I mean, a commercial property is going to be a greater investment than a residential. Plus, the neighborhood is already accustomed to this being used as commercial. So anyway, I just, if this passes, I hope the Bowmans come back again because they have a property that didn't pass. That's also been used as commercial that whole time. So anyway, just my 2 cents.
Thank you. So would there be a motion regarding 3262.1?
Motion we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mayor, before we vote, I would like to remind everyone that if there have been ex parte communications and you've received information upon which has not been repeated at this meeting and upon which you will rely on in your vote, if you don't mind, just disclose those conversations, not the substance of the conversations, just who they were with, and if anyone had questions, they can follow up. But that's it.
And that's for all the hearings that we have?
That's for all the hearings. Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halligan?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has adopted ordinance 3262.1, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the city to reflect a land use designation of general commercial for a parcel of property located at 3010 Stanford Road, Panama City, Florida, providing for repealer, severability, and effective date.
Item 6E is the second and final public hearing on ordinance 3262, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect the zoning designation of General Commercial 1 or GC1 for a property located at 3010 Stanford Road. As background information, the applicant has requested a future land use change and a rezoning to General Commercial 1. Planning Division staff recommends the City Commission deny the request. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval by a vote of 3-1. The following documents are enclosed. Ordinance number 3262.2. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services that the City Commission conduct a second and final public hearing and either approve or deny the ordinance. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Would any member of the public wish to speak to the ordinance 3262.2? All right. Would anyone up here like to speak about it? I'd like to know what happens. We approved general commercial, now we're talking about general commercial 1.
Oh, it's just a specific of the commercial. It was also general commercial. It's just a zoning destination. I don't know. Do you want to clarify that?
The other one's a zoning map.
Yeah.
Two different maps.
Yes,
Right, but it's still
Sorry.
it's general commercial. There's
So we're not doing
clarify
anything
that.
different?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that earlier. The first ordinance regarding this property was the future land use designation. That's part of the city comp plan. Whatever the zoning is has to be consistent with the future land use designation. So the land use designation is now, or that y'all approved the last ordinance, is general commercial, but the zoning itself, which is this item that you are considering right now, will be which type of general commercial, essentially. And they're requesting GC1, which is the
It's
lower
basically a
intensity.
two-step process, correct,
That's
Mr.
right.
Fuller? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's changing two different maps.
I got you. Thank you. Does anyone in the public wish to speak about this? Any commissioner want to speak about it? Okay.
Motion we approve.
I'll second the motion. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halligan?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has adopted ordinance 3262.2, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 3010 Stanford Road, Panama City, having approximately .387 acres, general commercial 1, providing for severability and effective date.
Item 6F is the second and final public hearings on ordinance 3263, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of urban residential 2 or UR2 for a property located at 425 East 19th Street with parcel ID number 14423-020-000. Background information, the applicant has requested a zoning change to urban residential. Staff recommends the City Commission approve the request. The item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. The following documents are enclosed: Ordinance 3263, staff analysis report and recommendation, and the adopted map series. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and approve the ordinance.
All right, this is a public hearing on ordinance 3263. Would any member of the public wish to speak? All right. How about any member of the commission? Okay, is there a motion to do something with 3263?
So moved.
Second.
That was a motion to approve, I suspect. Okay.
And a second.
And a second, thank you. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Nevin?
I'd like to read ordinance 3263, which is item 6F, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 425 East 19th Street, Panama City, Florida, having approximately 5 acres, urban residential 2, providing for severability and an effective date.
All right, we are now moving on to audience participation. Anyone who wishes to speak can come to the microphone and give your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes. And we've characteristically, if you know you're going to need more time, it might be easier for you to ask at the beginning rather than chop your time in half, but you can do it whatever way you want. All right.
Hi, I'm Kurt Hartog with the Bay Building Industries Association. Later in the meeting, Jonathan's going to be talking about the transportation impact ordinance, and we just want to address that issue a little bit more before the reading. We as the association understand the need for money for infrastructure. It's got to be there, but we just have concerns with the ordinance yet in the way that it stands. We were fortunate enough to be included in the workshops and the roundtables that were done by the city. Greatly appreciated for that. And the city, we feel the city did listen to us. They made some changes to the ordinance. They made some adjustments, trying to make it a little more palatable for us to agree with. But we still have a couple of real big concerns. The first being that there is still no plan on where this money is going. We're looking for some type of an implementation plan, where the money is going to be used at. It's still not there, so it's kind of like the old saying where if you build it, they will come. In this case, it's give us the money and we'll build something. You know, what are you going to build? We don't know. The other thing we want to look at is some of the exemptions to the ordinance for essential services. One primary would be daycares. Right now in Panama City North, you're looking at a $1,392 per student impact fee. So for a 25 student daycare, you're looking at $35,000 in an impact fee. What's that going to do? It's going to increase the cost of daycare. And, you know, it's already expensive enough the way it is. The other thing would be medical and dental offices are going to be charged at $23,800 per 1,000 square feet. Well, you know, neighborhoods like that are in Panama City North are going to need clinics and medical offices, and why are we going to be adding that kind of expense to those people trying to do that? Also is the affordability issue. We've asked in the past for the ordinance to maybe include an exemption for houses 1,400 square feet or less. The ordinance is based on the statute, Florida statute for affordability, which is statute 420. And the statute basically reads that affordable means that monthly rents or monthly mortgage payments, including the taxes and insurance, do not exceed 30% of the amount which represents the percentage of the median annual gross income. Well, in Panama City, the median income is about $37,500, which is $75,000 for a couple, for a household. At this point, a 1,400 square foot home costs between $170,000 and $180,000 per square foot to build, which is about $240,000 on the low spectrum. If they have a 10% down payment, they have to finance $216,000 at 6.5%. Principal and interest is $1,294. You add on $600 a monthly for escrow and insurance and taxes. They're right at that $8,600 or $1,864. If you add that $3,500 on top of that, which is what their impact fee would be, it's going to knock these people out of being able to afford that house.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hartog. Jonathan, when we talk, I think there's an item on here, let's see.
Yeah, I believe it's
10A.
It's the first one under city manager, sir.
10A.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk about some of the issues that he just raised?
We are, and I think it'd be appropriate as one of the stakeholders if you wanted to bring him back up to answer questions. And also Mr. Burke with our assistant city attorneys here can answer any questions as well when we get to that item.
Okay, so we're going to wait in 10A.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
My name is Josh Shaw. I live at 20730 Dickerson Road, Fountain, Florida. So, and I'm just going to follow up on what Mr. Hartog said. So in closing, number one, the current economic times with high interest rates, the high cost of construction, and the threat of tariffs increase those costs further. We feel this is not the time to add cost to the dream of owning a home. At a $9,200 increase due to tariffs, we forego the house. Never mind. Disregard that. Also, with change in the makeup, this commission in June, we ask that the reading of this ordinance be delayed until after the installation of the new commission, for they will be the ones dealing with the repercussions of the ordinance. I also wanted to tell you a personal story of mine. So I have two daughters. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old who are both in daycare here in Bay County. They go to a local church daycare, which we've looked at several different options, looked at several different places that have different costs. We currently pay $1,300 a month for our children's daycare, which is a lot of money. So I just say that to point to the example that he used for the daycare. The Panama City citizens can't afford any more money coming out of our pockets. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, George Carruthers, 1702 West Beach Drive. The non-binding, biasly written, in my opinion, Beach Drive referendum narrowly passed, which still demonstrates a very divisive topic within our community. As I said once before, and will say it again, unless you put an end to this, it will continue to fester with the residents of this city forever. Having had the opportunity to do some exit polling, I found that there was considerable confusion on the meaning of the referendum. I also found that many have not thought through the multitude of issues surrounding this project. There are still many that believe the multi-use path is a bad thing, and we will continue to voice our objections. Once you take down all the trees, I pray there will be no storm or hurricane during the year that it takes to build the path that leaves the homes vulnerable to wind and water damage, as I expect the city would have some liability in that. I do have a question I would like to have an answer on today. Are the legal fees that have been expended on the Beach Drive multi-use path and any legal fees in the future covered by the $8 million grant from the state? Did I mention I'd like to have an answer on that today? Frequently, that does not happen. Lastly, it seems to me that you have a responsibility to serve all the people. It appears as though you only are serving half the people.
Thank you, George.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brenda Lewis Williams, 1007 North Center Avenue, Panama City, Florida. Commissioner Street isn't here today, obviously. I wanted to congratulate him on his reseating. I have an observation about the decorum of the dais. It seems Now, I can pull the race card on this if need be, but I really don't want to. There seems to be times when some people come to speak and they're given free rein. Then there's times when other people come to speak and point of order is called. Now, I recognize you can call point of order at any given meeting, even if you're not using Robert's Rules of Order all the way down the road. But it seems that some folks that have a little bit of clout get a little bit more leeway when they're speaking. Ms. Halligus did it with the gentleman that owns Captain Jack's. Mr. Abrams had it the other day. And oftentimes, Mr. Henry is set down because he doesn't agree or he goes over his time and he doesn't ask for time. My observation, my suggestion is make it equal across the board, because it does appear that there's preferential treatment taking place. The next one is those blue storage bins up, that big old blue storage bin up at A.D. Harris. I've asked about that numerous times. It's still sitting there. What purpose does it serve? I don't see storage bins sitting in any other facility in Panama City, not just to be there. The second one is A.D. Harris. I'm like Horton. You know who Horton is? The elephant? And sometimes you all kind of act like Maisie. You think we forget. But I don't. What is going on with the A.D. Harris historical designation? I know it's a process, but there has been no feedback on where you are with that process. And I would like a delineated report. By the way, Ms. Smith, you do a good job on putting that budget together, that monthly budget. I like that. I do like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But where is, I haven't noted it in there, but where is the accounting of the commissioners and departments head discretionary funding? That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
My name is Patty Sunday, and I live at 1115 Fairland. I looked on my Google Maps and little thing. I walk about 200 days a year on Beach Drive, especially the last 2 years. On my best year, I walked 310 days. So I am someone that spends a lot of time there as a trail user. Have any of you ever been to the museum on the FSU campus in Tallahassee? It's small, but it's wonderful. When you go in, on the wall of the entrance, it has something, I should have had it on here, I apologize, that says, "We acknowledge, FSU, that these lands are not ours. They belong to the people before us." They're talking about First Nation and Indigenous people. I just was moved by that. It's a wonderful museum. So 3 of our 4 children came home for Easter, and what that means, they came and brought their books, which means we talk about their books. These are adults. And I think it's significant that the Beach Drive referendum passed on Earth Day. It was very nice. It was very nice that that was the day of the vote. So one of the books that was brought home was called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she was an ecologist who studied indigenous people in Alaska and one tribe was called Potawatomi. The author's point is we should be looking at a gift economy, which is rooted in reciprocity, reciprocal, gratitude, and abundance. This is her quote. "The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes. This is hard to grasp for societies steeped in nations of private property, where others are, by definition, eluded from sharing. Practices such as posting land against trespass, for example, are accepted and expected in a property economy, but are unacceptable in an economy where nature," and I'm going to insert God's ocean, she didn't say that, I'm saying that, "is seen as a gift to all." Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Jones, 515 East Beach Drive. I want to speak just very briefly about the traffic impact fees in the study. It's scheduled for final reading tonight. Obviously, I have great concerns anytime you raise the costs of growth. Anytime that you create a disincentive for investment in the region, in our community. I think the way that this current study is structured unfortunately has the potential to greatly impact certain uses versus other uses in wildly disproportionate manners. Specifically in regards to one client that is in the convenience store business, they're facing in Panama City North area impact fees approaching $900,000. Now, this is already, when you're talking about Panama City North, most of that linkage is on the south side of 231 with the occasional opportunities to jump. And you already have a disincentive associated with the railway. Now you're creating this additional one associated with these costs versus what they would be facing across the street. In a situation where you have the opportunities in front of you with the water sewer deals with the county, the ability to potentially annex more property and grow the city and its revenue base, you're creating a disincentive, a significant disincentive to do so. It makes much more sense to try and find alternative ways to manage your water sewer service than it does necessarily to come in and pay what could be exorbitant impact fees, deal-killing impact fees, especially when we're talking about in the Panama City North area where you don't have a lot of retail, restaurants, brands that directly fall into the quality of life experience from those folks that live in that area, but more importantly, that don't live in that area. And they have the opportunity to spend those dollars in the city. So not only are you affecting potentially the ad valorem income that would be generated from those properties, you're also impacting the sales tax revenue that could come from those properties because they'll seek to stay outside of the city. Now, I recognize the fact that these are necessary, that we have to do it to address the maintenance and the growth of our infrastructure. However, my concern is where the study is right now, it is not in a fully finished form, and it's going to disproportionately affect certain uses, and it's going to result actually in slower growth, lower quality of life, a lower opportunity for those that don't have certain assets and, currently to see those come to their communities and to where they live. So my request is not that we get rid of it, but that we take more time to understand the full implications of it and do a little more study.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Well, hello, Mr. Pickin.
Hank Pickin, 820 West Beach Drive. A little bit of a curveball. I was sorry that Commissioner Street wasn't here. I wanted to offer our congratulations on his reelection, and also glad to see that the election is in our rearview mirror, because now that the alleged protection of the election interference comments is also in the rearview mirror. And I hope now we can get some answers to the very, very important questions that we put forth, particularly about the budgeting and the planning around this path. But before I get into that, I wondered if you were as surprised as I was at how close the vote was. Because this was a vote taken on a referendum, as Mr. Carruthers said, was terribly, terribly biased. It was outlined all the benefits of the path without any of the negatives. There was no mention in there about traffic problems, no mention in there about parking problems, no mention in there to the disaster to the environment. But in spite of that, there were 2,800 people who voted against the path. Time after time after time, the citizens or residents of Panama City, of West Beach Drive, have been blamed for being in the way of the path. We're 45 residents. So 2,800 people voted no. That's a lot more people than live on West Beach Drive. Just want to make that very clear. The margin of victory of the path in that referendum was tiny. And it is not by any means a mandate to go forward with the path. I want you to consider that as you go through the process of getting bids and working further with the FDOT to get that together. I do think it's important to know that beyond the wording of the referendum was also the problem with who got a chance to vote. There are 13,000 vehicles a day that use that path, and I will guarantee you that a whole bunch of those people did not have an opportunity to vote about what was disaster in traffic was facing them. So keep that in mind too when you look at this. It was not a mandate. It was fewer percent and obviously a lot more than just the homeowners. The 4 questions that I had put to this group before, particularly to Commissioner Street, and I'll leave them with the clerk to see if we can get answers. But the primary one we dwelled on is the size of the difference between the original grant guesstimate of the price of this path and their guesstimate now of 6.5.
Thank you, Mr. Picken. Ms. Williams has called me on the carpet for not cutting people off at the.
Yes, Brenda.
And I think she legitimately did that.
Can I have another minute?
I'll move the motion to approve.
All right. I'll second that motion. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
One more minute.
Okay. As I mentioned at the last meeting, and had the exhibit up here on the board, this 9.4 was the original guesstimate of the cost of this path. Since then, the city has added at least $1 million of design to this 9.4, and seemingly about $500,000 worth of trees that were not in the original estimate. There was $30,000 for sod in the original estimate as far as landscaping was concerned. So suddenly 9.5 would have been 11 if it had been laid out with all that's been promised since that date. So we are now looking at 11 million versus 6.5. And I think as a taxpayer, we need to see a reconciliation. We asked for that reconciliation. I was promised a reconciliation at the last meeting, and I still haven't seen it. The other 3 questions are, how much overspend on the design has occurred? There was $891,000 that was approved by the commission. We're now over $1 million just on design fees. And what can you really do with Commissioner Halagus's comment, what can you really do?
Thank you.
East of.
Thank you, Mr. Picken.
East of Balboa.
Somebody's going to grab the hook.
It's further than that.
Hey there. How are you?
Pretty good. Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. I don't know how many of you have taken a ride up Martin Luther King lately at all of the irrigation hoses that are laying above ground, just cut up and not functioning, and all the plants filled up with weeds. I'd like to encourage you, like all the people that actually live there on Beach Drive, to go in there if there's trees that are a danger and cut them down and replace them with the little 1-inch thick oak trees that maybe 20 years from now will have a root system which will hold the ground together. And until then, stay out of our, it took $6.13 million to resurface it, and you're going to do all the rest of this with just that. I don't believe it. The marina downtown, you haven't talked about that. On June 25th of last year, you voted to give it away. You haven't told the city how much yet you've given it away for. It was 240, now it's 242, because you took the sea break and turned it into 2 extra slips. So instead of having what you could have had 4 100-foot-long boats there at the marina the way it used to be. You haven't changed the size of the parking lot. Even if you change and put in extra parking spaces for handicap, you have to reduce the total number of parking spaces. You didn't change the number of parking spaces on this. All you did was make congestion, and you made trouble for the boat ramp people. You got rid of the majority of the covers. Boats are very expensive. Keeping them out of the sun is very good for a boat, and it is worth more money. You've said out loud that the north side is going to cost you 11 to 15. You've capped it at 15 and moved it over. What good does that do to this city? Moving forward, how much money are you going to generate? You've conceded that 159 slips generates $1.7 million. This has 242. How much money are you going to give away moving forward? You still haven't told the city that. That restaurant there, last year, the total amount they gave to the city was $33.96. That's everything over $650,000 that they keep as profit. The hotel, $10,940. That's the total amount. A one-bedroom apartment that doesn't have a view of the water costs $14,400. This is what you gave away. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
I don't know.
All right, we are still in audience participation. Would anyone else like to speak? Excuse me.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Edie Nelson. I'm on the agenda as 8L, and I'm at 840 Kirkland Avenue. I'm seeing, could I get a variance on that property? I have maintained that area for over 60 plus years. It was a hand down from the generation of my uncle. I've been staying there for about 29 years. So, and to consider moving my fence, which is seemed to be an issue, it will be over my income, which I know it would cost a lot to move it. I am a widow, and my income is at a varies. So if possible, I would greatly appreciate a variance at 840 Kirkland.
Yeah, well, she's like, can somebody answer me? So normally what we do is we allow the audience participation, and then we'll address it once everybody's done, for sure.
I think you're on the agenda, aren't you?
Yes, I said 8L. I'm on the agenda for 8L.
You're on consent agenda, so unless one of us pulls that off, we'll just vote for all of them on one time. And if it, and when we do that, then it'll be approved.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's coming up.
So she's in great. Okay, that's what I thought. I should make sure.
Good evening, Brandon Henderson Jansenius, 1904 Tyndall Drive. Well, we just almost wrapped up an election season, right? So I do want to take note, I will talk about Beach Drive. 3,100 people voted in support of Beach Drive. Not only did we show up in support of Beach Drive, we showed up for support of growth and moving the city forward. I think the overall election results prove that. I do want to state that the Cove showed up in full numbers, as I told you guys that we would. Social media has blown up big time in the Cove. The referendum question was not unfair and biased. It was a simple question: should we use the grant for its intended purpose? That was the exact question. The purpose is for infrastructure developments, for the installation of a path, pedestrian safety, right? Any project has an intended purpose. So we showed up and we voted in support of it. We appreciate moving forward. We understand that it's a bigger picture initiative with the trail network that's going to be installed inside of Bay County. We look forward to being a part of that. We thank you guys.
Thank you. All right, audience participation is going, gone. So audience participation is closed. We're going to try to go through any questions that were raised.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner. So Mr. Hartog was up first, raised concerns with the transportation impact fees, as did the second speaker, Mr. Shaw. They'll be the first item under city manager, and we'll be able to discuss that. Mr. Carruthers asked about a question for fees paid for by the state. I'll defer to Mr. Zimmerman in a second, but I just want to clarify because the narrative keeps getting repeated that was only for design, the money that's been encumbered so far, and that is incorrect. It keeps getting said, but that is incorrect. Those fees went for a number of reasons. They went for design, not just for Panhandle Engineering, but also for Vulcan Engineering, the secondary backup engineering firm. It also went to survey in order to look at all the property lines, the state right-of-way, the city right-of-way, to make sure that, as this commission has promised all along, that this path would only be inside the state or city right-of-way. Also went to the fee for the arborist to look at every single tree from Johnson Bayou west to Frankfurt Avenue. It also went for the work with the horticulturist to come up with a plan for each and every one of those things. And regarding the estimate of the 9.3 million, that was one of the early on estimates. It was very, very, very conservative. We saw escalating prices and estimates at the time, but at the end of the day, the city asked for only $8 million for the project, and we remain committed and convinced, even with recent updates in the last couple of months, that we'll be able to complete the project under the level set to for the grant itself. Mr. Zimmerman, did you want to add anything in regards to the fees and some of the conversations with the staff?
Yeah,
I mean, the state, I apologize.
The specific question had to do with legal fees and whether or not they were covered under the grant. It's our opinion they should be covered under the grant. The grant covers the development and construction of a sidewalk on Beach Drive. And so that would cover the development, would properly mean hiring engineers, arborists, surveyors, environmental consultants, horticulturists. All of those have been hired and will be reimbursement bill will be requested from the state. And also a very important part of developing this project is making sure it is on right-of-way that is owned. The right-of-way is either state or city. And there is a certificate of title that is signed by the city attorney that says to the state, Florida Department of Transportation, that the project will be built on either right-of-way where the city has the right to use platted right-of-ways, or it's built on the state of Florida DOT right-of-way. The grant doesn't contemplate a transfer of ownership of whatever interest the state has to the city. That is something that came up later. It's not covered into the grant. The grant, it was contemplated that the project would always be built on the state road and, as necessary, on city right-of-way. Now, the grant also said that if the city wanted to and needed to, it could use the grant money to purchase property or to purchase easement rights if it needed to, which involves an attorney. And it involves an attorney to research the 60 different parcels as far as the certificate of title. Not only all parcels on the north side of the road, but on the south side of the road. And the plat goes back to the early 1900s. And the plat, all of the property on the south was not covered in that plat. So all of that had to be traced to make certain that this project is built on public right-of-way and is not taking private property. And our firm signed the certificate. I signed the certificate. I feel comfortable that this project is being built on public right-of-way, either city platted or the state. And the state filed a right-of-way maintenance map back in the 1990s. So in order to do that, just like it takes an engineer, a surveyor, an arborist in this case, environmental consultants. It takes an attorney to actually do what the grant requires us to do. There's no logical reason that we would not be reimbursed, the city would not be reimbursed for the cost of the title searches, the legal costs incurred. And that is one of the items that, along with all the other costs involved, would be taken up with the state.
And so, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, and I failed to mention the legal component too, so I just think it's kind of a quick recap. So again, the fees thus far are for the design through 2 firms, including one of which did the environmental survey that was requested by some of the residents along Beach Drive. Legal fees to look at all the deeds that Mr. Zimmerman just spoke to. The survey across the entire stretch to ensure that that we were only within the platted or maintenance right-of-way, geotechnical work, arborist work, horticultural work, all of that has gone into this. It has not just solely been design fee.
So the answer to Mr. Carruthers' question was, are the legal fees covered by the grant? And it sounded to me like you think they probably are. Am I misquoting you?
No, they should be, absolutely.
So they should be.
Right.
So, okay. So the answer to his question is they should be covered. Obviously, we won't know until you send them a bill and get it back.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. And also the fees were for the public outreach. We had the public meetings we had at least 3 public meetings on the Beach Drive path as well.
Are those legal fees to have a public meeting?
No. Those were just fees that are included in the initial expenditures that we keep talking about. Yeah.
No, we're talking about legal fees. We're talking about legal fees here.
Well, no,
That's
we
the
keep
question
saying
he
we
asked.
spent, respectfully, Mr. Mayor, we keep getting accused that we spent over $1 million to design this. That's factually incorrect, and we need to state that. And I'm just outlining the 6 or 7 things that the $1 million has covered. That's all I'm trying to do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And one of those that I failed to mention was the public outreach for 3, actually, now that I think about it, 4 public meetings, because we did the extra one at Gulf Coast Gulf Coast State College. It was Gulf Coast Community when I graduated, so I always call it Gulf Coast Community.
Okay.
All right, next.
His question was, are the legal fees covered by the grant? And the answer is, we think they are.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, next was
simple question.
Yep.
Jonathan, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that if we don't do the transfer, which has nothing to do with the grant, the transfer of the road,
Correct.
it's significantly less than the grant amount, most likely, the way that it's...
I don't know that I would say significantly, but it would be less. That is correct. And you are correct that the acceptance of the grant itself and the approval of the subrecipient agreement preceded the ask of the prior city manager to consider transferring the road. So the project is not predicated on the transfer. It just changes the way we move forward. Yes. All right. Next was Miss Brenda Lewis Williams. She spoke to the commission about time given for folks speaking and encouraged us to be consistent. She asked about the blue storage bin at 80 Harris. Ms. Lewis Williams, I've asked Mr. Jones and Mr. Mefford to get to the bottom of that, and we'll get you an answer by the early part of next week. And then, wow, I cannot read my own writing. She asked about funding, and I'm so sorry.
I got it.
The historical designation, that is still in the process. I think the best thing for that would be to get a formal response and circulate that to the mayor and the commissioners in the form of a memo. And then also we'll send that to you as well, Ms. Lewis Williams. But she had a question about funding, and I can't read what I wrote.
I have it.
Oh, discretionary funding. I would defer to Ms. Smith for that.
Yes, and I'm not really clear on what your definition of discretionary spending is, but the mayor and commission's budget is in the general fund, which is the first page of my report. As far as discretionary spending that I see in the mayor and commission's budget, their total budget is $417,281. I see $16,000 for travel and training. I don't know if you'd consider that discretionary. And there's $1,500 in there for promotional activities. So, I mean, if you want to be clearer about what you consider discretionary, I'd be glad to sit down with you and we can go through it dollar for dollar.
I'd like to add, I've never used any discretionary money at all.
Yeah.
I've never asked for anything, so.
Yeah.
It's not normal accounting, I know.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that was a public records request, Ms. Smith. All right.
Let me talk to Brenda a minute, because she says that some people don't get equal time up here, and she's right. And Walter P. Henry is one of the ones that doesn't, but he never asks for never asks for more time. So maybe I don't understand him, or maybe he doesn't understand me, but he generally does talk more, and he does get shut down, but he doesn't ask for more time. So I would appreciate if he would, if he wants more time to ask for it, because I certainly don't mean to cut him down any more than anybody else. Thank you.
All right, next, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, was Patty Sunday. She spoke about indigenous people and promoting and creating a gift economy, and spoke about a recent visit to FSU Tallahassee, what we like to call the satellite campus in Tallahassee. And then next was Mr. Patrick Jones. He raised concerns about the transportation impact fees and understood the need for them, but just again raised concerns about the timing and the implementation process. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, that'll be item 10A that we'll be discussing. Mr. Hank Picken, again, expressed his opposition to the Beach Drive sidewalk, asked a few questions that I think we've covered a number of them up here. Mr. Derek Thomas spoke about resurfacing as well as the Beach Drive path, but just for clarification, it wasn't just the Beach Drive stretch that was resurfaced. It was Beck Avenue beginning at 15th Street all the way down Beck Avenue, 10th Street, Chestnut, 9th, Frankford, Beach Drive, and then 6th Street up to Harrison Avenue. And that was a simple mill and resurface, not a complete rebuild or complete resurfacing of the road. Spoke about the marina downtown. Mr. Zimmerman and I did have a meeting recently with the, I see you, Sean, it's getting really warm in here. I don't know if it's just me up here, but I don't know if the air conditioning shut off because it was 5 o'clock. So if you could check on that, please, sir. Thank you, Mr. Self.
We're not over 50.
You may, I'm not over 50, but I'm close. So.
Nor are you woman.
Oh, I'm just going to move on following that. So.
We don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure, John.
All right, please, Lord, moving on. All right. We asked about the marina downtown, and Mr. Zimmerman and I have recently had conversations with the Second Financial Advisory Firm. I'm going to look forward, PFM. And so we've got some preliminary information back from them. And Mr. Zimmerman, I don't know if there's anything to add really, or if I think we have a meeting scheduled for maybe a couple of weeks with them kind of following up, but I think our plan is to circle back sometime in May with a potential kind of recommendation, but we had a couple more questions we needed to ask by PFM.
Yeah, I think we anticipate receiving that, the draft report marked final. I really don't think there'll be any new information, but they were going to check back with Mr. Fishkind, who is the economist that represents the developers. The actual wording of the lease, I don't anticipate any more changes from the draft that's being circulated, and that can be sent around to commissioners probably next week, just to review it in draft form.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Okay, were we on Derek?
We are. We still have a couple more from him. So he spoke, well, I'll say first off, I'll save the more complicated one for the end. He spoke to the oak trees. The minimum size of the oak trees that we're planning to put, over 80 of them on West Beach Drive, is going to be 3 inches, not 1 inch. So we're not really sure where that came from. Then he spoke to the money that the city made on Indigo and Harrison's. I would defer to the clerk on that. I mean, that was $30 and some penny. I mean, I don't have that information in front of me, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't know where those numbers came from.
I don't know where those numbers came from either.
But during the first quarter of 2025, and the second quarter of fiscal year 2025, January through March, the city has received just over $44,500 from the development down there. And since inception on September of 2022, which is just over 2.5 years, the city, the CRA, and the DIB have all received almost $615,000. So I don't know where $36 and $500 or $10,000 or whatever that other number was. I don't know where those numbers came from.
So it's $615,000 for 2.5 years?
Correct.
Okay, I think those are numbers that we would like to try to remember.
I send them to you quarterly, Mayor.
I know, I thought they were higher than that.
Yeah, I
but-
thought it was 700 and something.
Yeah,
But whatever.
but I'm glad that you're making
fine.
it clear.
Let's just move on. It's more than $33.
Did you have another question, Commissioner Halligus?
Nope.
Okay, good. Good to move on, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next was Miss Edie Nelson, who resides at 840 Kirkland. Her item is item 8L. Y'all will be considering granting her a variance, and she just requested that y'all please do grant that variance as part of the consent agenda. Again, item 8L as in Lima. And then last was Brandon Henderson Jensinas. He expressed his support. He again expressed his support for the Beach Drive path and continued growth in Panama City and the broader trail plan for path around all of Panama City. Those are the 10 comments, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, that I have.
Well, I would like to comment on Mr. Jensinius. He said the referendum was not biased, so I talked to Professor Timothy Golub at Gulf Coast State, and he ran it through his class, and the class said there was some merit, but it was they felt that it was biased in its terminology. So I think that's, he can have what opinion he wants, but I did run it through a government class that they had no dog in the fight, and they said they thought it was. I would agree with Mr. Picken. He said earlier that there was not a mandate, and a lot of people that don't live on Beach Drive actually supported this thing. So we have a biased referendum, and we have people that don't live on Beach Drive supporting it. So thank you.
All right. Next is the consent. I don't know if you're ready to proceed, Mr. Mayor.
Let's see, what time is it? Let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and finish up the consent and the rest of the meeting. All right, folks. Time to go back to work. Enjoyed our conversation. We need to have longer breaks so we can all talk more. We're going to go to the consent agenda. Would any of the commissioners like to take any items out of the consent agenda to talk about? I wanted to ask a question. I guess I'll be a pig. I'll go first. 8E, I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk about 8K and 8L. And I think, Ms. Lucas, I guess we've got you added on for something.
That's in
So we
the
don't-
next,
Oh, that's not part of the consent? Okay, but it comes after.
yes.
Thank you. Anybody else want to take anything out of consent?
Which ones were they, Mayor?
Let me see again.
8E,
8K and
8K, and L.
8E, 8K, and 8L. Right.
I'll move a motion to pull those out.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halligus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, would somebody?
Approve the rest?
No.
That's
I motion we approve the
We're getting
rest.
ready to do that.
Second.
You're ahead of us.
I don't think we normally vote on pulling them off, but.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Just-
Mr. Zimmerman says it's always good to have a vote.
That is
Okay.
true. You are correct.
He is our attorney, you know.
Did we get a second?
Yes.
I think we did. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the rest of the consent. Can you please call the roll, Ms. Smith?
Commissioner Halligus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, item 8E is consideration of approval of award of bid PC 25033 SRF Area D14 improvements to mainline construction in the amount of $4,607,573.44, which includes a warranty bond additive alternate approving up to $4,837,952.11 to include a 5% contingency. Area D14 is a project area located in an area with aged infrastructure with urgent repair needed in the St. Andrews area of Panama City. Area is located south of 14th Street, north of 13th Street, east of Clay Avenue, and west of Friendship Avenue. This project will be funded by SRF. On April 4th of 2025, sealed bids were received by the City of Panama City and opened for the above referenced project. Bids were opened in the presence of bidders' representatives, city staff, and the SRF lead engineers. We received 8 bids for the project, as shown in the detailed certified bid tabulation. And Mainline Construction Incorporated submitted the lowest bid in the amount of $4,607,573.44. City is planning on using advance payment for these tasks, and this invoices will be presented to SRF for payment and advance of payment to the contractor. Staff recommendation to the Director of Public Works is that the commission approve this request.
Okay, my question on this, and it's probably not difficult, but what is advanced payment in advance of payment to the contractor? What exactly does that mean? How does that fly?
Yeah, great question, Mr. Mayor. So we take the SRF or State Revolving Fund packet based on each payment that's due. It's very specifically through a pay app that shows the appropriate line items that kind of created that invoice or that pay application, and then we send that to the State Revolving Fund leadership inside of the Department of Environmental Protection in Tallahassee, and they review it. They review it from a program standpoint, and then once it, all the boxes are checked and everything is kosher and correct and they concur, and they've kind of like reviewed the paperwork that was submitted by the contractor, reviewed by the SRF lead engineer, as well as our city utilities engineer and other senior public works staff. They then review it just to double check everything, good checks and balances, and then once it's good, they then send it to the finance division of the Department of Environmental Protection. What the early or prepayment in advance means is that we basically pay these invoices or pay apps out of the state revolving fund, but the city is not making any payments at this time to the state for the state revolving fund. Right now, the first payment is not due until May of 2026. We're actually working with the DEP. We may be able to push that back a little bit further. Additionally, not deferred payment, the interest on the loan is actually 0%, and there's also 25% forgiveness. But I think basically the bottom line up front on your question is that the payment is made out of state resources prior to us starting to pay back the loan, which will not happen any sooner than May of 2026, and will likely be pushed back a little bit further.
So we pay the contractor out of the box, and then it goes to get reviewed, and then we get the money back? We've
done that. If there's been certain delays, we've done it, but we get the money back. The crux of the matter is we get the money from the state before we start paying them back. There have been some occasions where we have utilized paying the contractor out of the utilities fund and then had the state revolving fund reimburse that because there were some delays. We've seen delays coming out of the holidays from the state, or at the summertime where they transition from June to July, which is their fiscal year. It's July 1 to June 30th. So either the state pays it to us and we receive it and then we wire transfer it, or we wire transfer it if it's taking too long on the state's end, which has happened. I'm sure each of you have heard from some of the contractors expressing that. And then when the money is reimbursed from the state, instead of wiring that onto the contractor, it just reimburses what we've already sent. But the main thing is that we are not paying the state back on that loan. It's deferred. We're paying the contractor in advance of the loan repayment, which again won't happen for at least another year.
So does the loan repayment start after the project is completely done?
In theory, yes, sir. With the first phase, yeah, it could. I mean, we may get an extension based on the number of projects. Plus, we are starting to see a number of a lot of the prices come down. We alluded to that earlier with some of the conversation around the Beach Drive sidewalk. For example, one of the bids that we opened up today was around $5 to $5.5 million, and the initial estimate was, I think, $8 to $9 million. So we're seeing construction costs come down. We're seeing the bid costs come down, and so that does kind of free up some additional money for us to maybe do additional projects. So that's why. Yes, right now we're set to start paying the state revolving fund back in May of next year, but we're also, and we've already had preliminary conversations with the DEP, again, on pushing that with the hope that we, can maybe stretch out some more resources and get some more projects done in the city.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see what else.
Need a motion.
I motion we approve.
Second.
Mrs. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, item 8K is consideration to approve updating the names of the northernmost portions of Airport Road and Airport Drive. Enclosed for the commission's consideration is a request for the name of the portion of Airport Road that is between Highway 390 Discovery Loop to be updated to be South Discovery Loop, and for the portion of Airport Drive that is between Highway 390 and Blue Stem Street be updated to be Veranda Avenue. See Appendix A, the map up on the screen, for a map showing the extents of the proposed naming updates. We're basically extending the names of the roads that already exist. The proposed road name updates would match the names of these roads as they extend in and out of the Sweet Bay development. It is the opinion of city staff that maintaining the same road names along the same road alignment is a sensible request. The name of Airport Road south of Highway 390 all the way through to Harrison Avenue would remain as is. Staff recommendation to the Director of Public Works and the City Manager's Office that the Commission approve this request.
So what's in green there is what we're talking about, I suspect.
That is correct, sir. And so on the west side, or the longer version, you'll see it basically as you drive into the back entrance of Sweet Bay, you have Airport Road, and then all of a sudden it just becomes North Discovery Loop. And so we talked with, I worked with Commissioner Granger on this. We had communications with some of the developers and representatives of the Sweet Bay community, and concurred that there was no conflict with that becoming South Discovery Loop, and then north of Discovery Loop is North Discovery Loop. So it's basically the same road, rather than just having the road go from Airport Road, just boom, all of a sudden now it's North Discovery Loop. Same thing over on the east side of the map, the shorter version between Highway 390 and Blue Stem. You'll notice that from Blue Stem north to Discovery Loop, it's already Veranda Avenue. And so the recommendation is to take it from Blue Stem all the way to 390 and just extend that and make it all the same road to become Veranda Avenue. And of course, Airport Drive does not extend at all past the south part of Highway 390. So this is the only stretch of road that would ever need to be addressed specifically for Airport Drive.
So on the west there, some of that is not in Sweet Bay, right?
That is correct, but it is the same road.
Right. So are the people that aren't in Sweet Bay, are they happy with that?
So if you look at the map,
does it matter?
Yeah,
There's only a few houses.
Yeah, there's only really a few
okay.
houses that are actually on Airport Road. Most of them are off. I think there might be a couple very close to 390. Jerome, are you able to zoom in a little bit, sir, so we can kind of look down the left edge? If you can't, that's fine. There you go. So, and we're focused on the left larger green stripe, Mr. Smith, yeah. So you can kind of see most of those are like cul-de-sac and roads that come off of the road, sir. So you've got Airport Circle in there. You've got 29th Street. You got Tupelo Court. You got, I don't know what that other one is right there, 28th Court. None of those are going to be impacted. I think it's just to Commissioner Granger's point, there's a few houses right at the very bottom on the north side of 390. Yeah, and one business. So, and again, it's acceptable for, when you jump, because Highway 390 is now a major highway through Panama City. And so it's acceptable either for the time being or into perpetuity for the road name to the south to remain Airport Road at this time. And again, it comes off and then it curves and travels more in a southeasterly direction. So we're not recommending any change at that point. And there are a lot more businesses and issues along there. We have had some conversations amongst staff, and I've had it with Commissioner Granger, that maybe there's another long-term name for that road to, because airport, there's no airport in Panama City proper anymore. I might have had a brief conversation with Commissioner Lucas as well, because Airport Road is in both Ward 2 and Ward 3, the southern part of 390. So, but again, not recommending any changes at this time.
All right, thank you. So, again, I guess we need a motion to update the names.
A motion we approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, item 8L is consideration of a right-of-way use agreement for the property owner at 840 Kirkland Avenue for the use of the Cedar Avenue Road right-of-way. The owner of the property at 840 Kirkland Avenue, Ms. Edie Nelson, is requesting to enter into a right-of-way use agreement referred to as the agreement going forward with the city for the use of the portion of the Cedar Avenue Road right-of-way, or ROW. Ms. Nelson's property lies adjacent to Cedar Avenue, and a portion of Mrs. Nelson's 6-foot vinyl privacy fence extends approximately 23 feet into the right-of-way. Additionally, a portion of her storage shed also lies within the right-of-way. The testimony at the March 27, 2025 code enforcement hearing was that when Ms. Kirkland acquired the property in 1990, the fence existed in its current location. After reviewing the request, city staff have determined that the fence and shed do not obstruct or impede the city's ability to maintain and operate the existing road or water and sewer utilities. If approved, the agreement would require Mrs. Nelson to maintain the improvements and indemnify the city from any claims, liability, and/or damages arising out of her use of the right-of-way. Although the city has required property owners with commercial uses that encroach on city right-of-way to provide liability insurance that names the city as an additional insured, the attached agreement does not require such insurance because the use is solely residential. The term of the agreement is 20 years and can be terminated by the city if the improvements are not maintained or if there is a competing public use for the right-of-way. Following documents are enclosed in your packet: the proposed right-of-way use agreement, the description of the property subject to the agreement, the survey and sketch of the road right-of-way and its improvements, and the location map. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services that the City Commission approve the right-of-way use agreement with Mrs. Edie Nelson at the property listed above.
Okay, so she does not have to carry liability. I'm sure that could be very expensive, and that's fine.
Yeah. I would defer to Mr. Zimmer on any specifics of that. His office was involved in coming up with this recommendation.
You said it correct. Okay. She doesn't, this does not require liability insurance to cover the city.
Okay, if somebody gets hurt, would the city be responsible?
Well, in theory, the city shouldn't be responsible because we have given her an agreement to utilize the portion of the property that she has utilized ever since she got title to the property back in around 1990. And so nothing really changes, but it allows her to keep her fence. And there's I think a portion of her shed that's on the city right of way. Then she is to indemnify and hold the city harmless if there ever is any issue that involves the city.
Okay. I think it's a great idea to give her what she wants. I don't have anything going on that. What if we all die? What happens if she dies? Does the new owner get it, or how does that work out? Because none of us live forever. We all know that.
Right. The way this is, it would run with the land, but it can be terminated at any time that the city determines there's another public use for that. Like if you wanted to expand utilize the right-of-way for its full length. So if the city makes a finding that there is another competing public use, then it could be terminated. But it will not automatically terminate upon the death of Mrs. Nelson.
So her heirs would continue in the same vein that she's continuing.
Yes.
Okay. Again, it's good that she gets the land. I certainly don't have any. I'm all in favor of that. I just wonder if we should make some kind of recommendation if she passes. When she passes, does the fence need to come down, or does everything just stay there and go on to the next owner?
Right now, everything would stay there, but the city at any point can determine that there's a public need for that property and remove the fence themselves.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move we approve the recommendation from the Director of Developmental Services.
Second.
Okay.
Was that a second? Thank you. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, Mr. City Attorney? Oh, no, sorry, Ms. Lucas. I apologize.
So the reason I requested this, there are several.
Commissioner, can you pull your microphone up a little bit closer? Thank you.
Thank you. There are several bills moving through the legislature, which, if passed, would have adverse effects on the city of Panama City. One of which has to do with the Tourist Development Council and the ultimate dismantling of that funding source. There's also a House bill that would affect CRAs going forward, if it were to pass, would definitely affect plans that we have for revitalization of our community redevelopment areas in the city of Panama City. And there is a property tax bill study that is being requested that could move toward dismantling the primary funding system, or one of the primary funding systems of the city, the ad valorem tax. And so I'm asking my colleagues to consider sending letters expressing the benefit or opposition of these adverse effects on the city in these three areas, and would yield to our attorney for more legalese explanation.
Thank you. And what I'm looking up here, I'll have it here in just a second. There we go. The first item I wanted to discuss dealt with tourism development tax, and it's called. And there is a House bill that allows the tourism development tax to be used for property tax credits. It would potentially eliminate funding for tourism marketing, advertising, and the development of tourism facilities. And from the tourism industry's perspective, this is seen as a threat for Florida tourism to continue to thrive based upon uses of the tourism development tax like it is today. Also, there's another House bill that once again relates to this topic, and it's opposed by many because it would rework how tourism taxes are utilized, and it would eliminate some for tourism purposes and potentially redirecting the funds to other uses. So that's a concern in particular by the tourism industry. As it relates to the community redevelopment areas or agencies, there's a couple of bills, but one bill would terminate all CRAs within 20 years. It would not allow starting any new CRAs after a particular date, probably the end of this year. And also, it would not allow debt to be issued after, I think, October 1st of this year. And the goal is once again to make it more difficult to create CRAs or to prohibit the creation of new CRAs, and then to have sunset provisions. So that is being considered. There are House bills, and there's also a Senate bill on that. On the ad valorem tax, I believe there is a bill that relates to funding a study. It's still a long ways out, probably, of any implementation, but depending on the study, there's been talk about having a proposed constitutional amendment concerning ad valorem taxes. Have no idea how that funding would be replaced for local government, but that is the third item that you mentioned. The commissions in the past, if there has been legislation, and that's why Commissioner Lucas brought it up now, is our session will not last much longer. And the city commission can, approve a letter to go that just express your concern, send it to your legislative delegation, Senator Trumbull and Representative Griffiths.
So I've asked that we discuss this today to determine if we as a body would like to send a letter or to either of these three areas.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
So move, yes.
Any discussion?
I would just, in the interest of time, I would say if you'd like, I can send it on behalf of that and specifically reference this meeting and this vote think that would be quicker than trying to get, all of y'all to come and sign off on the letter, and Mr. Zimmerman and I could write it together and submit it on behalf of the commission.
Is it too premature to talk about the property ad valorem?
I don't think so.
Never. No, I don't mean for the city, because that was the first thing I thought about, was like,
You're saying
wow.
maybe don't complete,
I'm
like
just
that's
wondering
separate?
if it's too early to reach out to them, but we don't even know what all the specifics are about it, correct? I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
The correlation I see is that each of the other areas reference property taxes. They're moving these monies to free them up to make them available for some sort of property tax substitution.
Well, if they do that with property tax, that would affect the CRA anyway, right?
Yeah.
So,
Depends on how they execute what they want to do.
right. And then I have the question of the reason this is probably coming up. I mean, I feel like our CRA has come a really long way, and they are really making an impact. But I do know that across the state, there's just a lot of, it doesn't always do what it's supposed to do. But the taxes would still, assuming they were still property taxes, the taxes would still come to the city, but they wouldn't be designated into a particular area, correct?
Correct.
Unless there's no property taxes. Now, the the TDC stuff, I think that really doesn't affect, that's more of a consumption tax, and that seems like something totally different than the CRA.
I mean, it would affect, obviously, the TDC on the beach, and it would affect,
Yeah,
I think,
that one's
Destination
easy
Panama
to
City.
me.
Yeah.
The other one, I feel like, I don't, I'm not against it. I just wondered if it's just,
So the Florida League of Cities, and I don't know, I mean, I get their emails. I think most of y'all do. So they've already come out strongly communicating in a very official capacity, or a formal capacity rather, to the legislature, both chambers, that they oppose any modifications to the CRA.
I just wonder how that is a very large revenue for us as property tax. I've racked my brain around, like, now after being a city commissioner. I mean, it sounds great sitting over there. I'd love not to pay property. And that's why I think there's some thresholds too, isn't it? Like, it's only like an exemption up to like a 500,000 or something like that. Like, it's not everybody just gets wiped out, I don't think. So that's what I mean. I wonder if we should have
Which one are you talking about?
the property tax.
Oh, well, they're asking for a study.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'm not informed enough probably I wouldn't mind being a little more debriefed on it. I'm sure there's a reason why it's coming forward and some ideas about how that, I mean, I'm not going to be up here anyway, but I'm thinking like, wow, that's I'm just saying, I don't know from a city perspective, I get it and why I would say, yeah, keep property taxes. But then there's a part of that that's like, what's really best? I really don't know. I don't know enough information.
I don't think the message that we're sending is keep property taxes. I think the message that we're sending is find another way. Because I think what the legislature is trying to do is they're trying to get from A to B and get rid of property taxes, but sacrificing your tourism tax dollars.
Oh, I agree with the tourism tax dollars,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily based on property.
But they've got to give us an off-ramp anyway, because you can look at like a county like Liberty. I don't think they have a CDC or
No, for sure.
They don't have TDC. They don't have a CRA. I mean, they've got to have a viable option to fund their entire county without property taxes, depending on how the state moves forward on this. And it is very.
So it is about property
I don't envy them because they're trying to untangle spaghetti with one noodle at a time. I mean, that's what they're trying to do with just getting rid of property taxes. But I think we need to send a message to them that says this is not the way to do that.
Yeah, I totally get the TDC because
Yeah.
that's not funded on property taxes.
Yeah.
But what I guess what I'm saying is the wording of the letter would be what? What am I voting on?
As an idea, what I think you really, the desire is to express concern. And there's expressing concern about eliminating tourism development taxes, because you know how important it is to Panama City to have that source of revenue. So it's more of a concern. Also concerned about the CRA, because you know how important it is. And part of the letter would be about how useful the Community Redevelopment Agency and the community redevelopment areas have been to the city. And when it comes to property taxes, just once again, we're one of the fortunate cities that has a merchant tax, and most don't have that source of revenue, but it is a very important source of revenue. So having, the concern is without some viable substitute, just be very, very cautious. It's more of a.
Love that. That's great. I just wasn't quite sure what we were jumping in after. I totally agree with it because I don't know how we would do it.
Right, because there are not specifics very much yet that deal with the property tax other than what.
So should we let Mr. Zimmerman write a letter or Mr. Jonathan write the letter?
Together.
Together? Well, that's a good idea.
I would ask my colleague to my left here if you would.
Do you know my name?
I'm just kidding. If you would be in favor of a stronger than just concerned about the tourist development.
Opposition.
Oh, yeah.
I would
Now, the
recommend y'all
tourist
use
development,
opposition.
Yes.
I'm completely.
Especially with the CRAs, that's a big concern, especially with what we've already kind of put in motion as a city.
Are you getting ready to make a motion? Is that?
We have a motion.
What's the motion?
That we send letters to the legislature expressing our concerns about the property tax, House bill that have to do with the CRAs, and strong opposition against the tourist development bill
And that could be crafted by
the
Mr.
attorney
Zimmerman
and the city manager.
Okay.
So,
And we have a second.
Yeah. If I can just clarification, so Commissioner Lucas, we would oppose anything to the CRA and the tourist development, and then raise concern with the study on the property taxes. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, I think we're to city attorney.
I have one item. This is requesting your approval of a settlement offer. It is from Coastal Electric Construction. Without reading the entire letter, there was Coastal Electric Construction is a subcontractor for FPL. They were doing work at Star Avenue, and in doing their work, they drilled through a 12-inch water main that runs along the east side of Star Avenue. Because the water main in some places is 13 feet deep, they could not do a point repair, and the city was required to engage Marshall Brothers on an expedited basis to go out and make the repair. Also, the citizens out in Liberty and areas along Star Avenue were without water for a few days. The cost for that was $219,000 to Marshall Brothers. We submitted a claim to the Coastal. Their insurance carrier notified the city and said, well, we'll pay half of that amount because, it wasn't, we don't think that it was identified correctly where the water line was, so we'll settle for half. Staff disagreed. My office prepared a complaint and named Coastal Electric as well as Florida Power because they were working for Florida Power, did not file the complaint, but indicated that we'd recommend this if we couldn't resolve it. Also offered, though, to resolve it for $200,000. They have accepted that. I have the signed settlement agreement, and it's here for you to approve, and we recommend approval.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the settlement offer?
A motion to approve.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Ms. Smith, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 10A is the report back on the staff workshops and roundtables for transportation impact fees. A report back to the commission on the proposed transportation impact fees was requested from staff at the March 25th, 2025 City Commission meeting. at the April 24th, 2025 meeting, which is today. Background information, at the January 14th, 2025 City Commission meeting, the Commission heard the first reading of Ordinance 3256, adopting Chapter 113B of the Unified Land Development Code regarding the implementation of transportation impact fees. The second reading was then scheduled for January 28th of 2025. At the January 28th, 2025 City Commission meeting, the Commission, at the request of staff, voted to table the ordinance until the March 25th, 2025 City Commission meeting, and further directed staff to conduct workshops and necessary meetings to gather feedback from the stakeholders and public regarding the proposed transportation impact fees. At the March 18th, 2025 City Commission meeting, following discussion, the second reading was tabled until the April 24th, 2025 City Commission meeting, and staff was to bring a report to the April 8th, 2025 Commission meeting. However, at the March 25th Commission meeting, the Commission discussed altering the meeting time of the April 8th Commission meeting as Commissioner Granger had a conflict. As his ward is significantly impacted by the proposed transportation impact fees, he made a motion to delay the report back to be moved to April 24th. Today, at this City Commission meeting, the Commission established at the April 24th meeting the date, if necessary, of the final reading of the ordinance implementing the transportation impact fees. Since February of this year, staff has held the following meetings as directed by the Commission: a workshop with the community Wednesday, February 5th, a roundtable with representatives of stakeholder groups on Wednesday, February 26th, another workshop on Tuesday, March 4th, and then another roundtable with representatives from industry stakeholders on Thursday, April 3rd. Based on the multiple meetings, conversations, and feedback received, the following changes have been made or are recommended in the implementation of the Transportation Impact Fees Ordinance. 1, delay the implementation until October 1 of 2025, providing an exemption from payment of the fees for any development that has an application for development order deemed complete as of September 30th of this year. 2, establish a sunset provision and end date of September 30th, 2035, valid for only 10 years. 3, follows the statutory plan of phased implementation, 50% reduction of fees for years 1 and 2, and full implementation of the fees on October 1st of 2027. 4, exempts any residential home less than 2,400 square foot constructed on an existing lot from paying the impact fee. 5, accessory dwelling units less than 1,200 square foot pay no impact fee. 6, exempts affordable housing as defined in Chapter 420 Florida statutes from paying the impact fee. 7, provides a credit for fees previously paid when a home or commercial building is demolished or destroyed and then reconstructed. 9, provides a credit or exemption for lot splits. And 10, provides a right for owners or developers to provide an alternate calculation of the fee and to seek credits for improvements to city facilities made by the owner and/or developer. Additionally, I'd just like to point out that the Commission can provide certain incentives as it so desires throughout the 10-year implementation of the Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance, encouraging, say, development of daycares, waiving any and all transportation impact fees to encourage the development of any type of specific industry, organization, or business that the city might need. Additionally, we were asked about providing a map. However, in talking with the legal team, there was some caution against doing that because if we identify specific roads and/or projects in advance of the ordinance being implemented, those projects, those roads could not be managed or executed with the monies collected. So the desire of staff would be after the ordinance is implemented, then kind of coming up with a more specific plan. I want to point out right now that I understand that one of the statements, that the taxpayers, bearing this and with some of the uncertainties, the challenge is, and this point was made repeatedly, right now, the taxpayers are bearing this because right now the general fund is supplementing a lot of the additional needed transportation modifications that are needed because of development, except in the rare occurrence where we address that in the developer's agreement. I'll also note that state law already prohibits any increase in the first 4 years of the implementation of the Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance. and any increase in the fee after that 4-year period requires a 2/3 affirmative vote, which would be 4 out of 5 members of the commission. So staff recommendation this evening is to adopt ordinance 3256, which would be effective October 1 of 2025 with the above parameters at the May 13th, 2025 City Commission meeting. I also just add, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Assistant City Attorney Mike Burke is here and also willing to answer any questions as we deliberate this evening. He has been the main person from the legal team as we've worked through this. So, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
Thank you. How much money are we trying to make?
I mean,
The question is a leading, that's a leading question, and that's not how this issue is looked at. I can give you one example, one very good example, and I can put probably a dollar amount on that just for the sake of discussion. Panama City North is larger than the rest of Panama City combined. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, because usually when we put it up on a map, it looks like how Alaska looks on a regular map. It looks tiny comparatively to the rest of the continental United States. Very similar to Panama City North, this area is mostly woods, but it is where everything is going to have to go to grow. That's where the city is going to grow. We currently have 2 roads that are feeder roads into that area. One is Star Avenue, and the other one is John Pitts Road. Both of these roads are owned by the county. And both of these roads have mostly county land on them. So in the TPO workshop yesterday, I asked the question, what would it cost to 4-lane Star Avenue from 22 all the way up to 231? And just the planning, design, and engineering on that would be roughly $2.5 to $3 million. That's before any shovel goes in the ground. That's before any asphalt gets laid. Is $2.5 to $3 million. Currently, as it stands, if the city wanted that to happen, because there's a lot of houses going in up there, if the city wanted that to happen, we would have to pay for that out of general fund, which means every taxpayer in the city has to pay for it. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have to come up with $2.5 to $3 million. That would be the more politically expedient route to take, but I try to be as accurate as possible. I think that we would need to raise about $1 million just to get through design, because I think we then go to FDOT as part of the TPO and say, hey, we would like to do this. Here's $1 million, and then they would come with matching funds. And we could probably piecemeal that out over time. But the point that I'm making here is that we could do tiny little chunks of Star Avenue all the way down if we wanted to, but who's paying for it? And that's currently us, the entire city. Because there's thousands of homes that are going to be built in this area that are going to drive traffic and drive more trips on all these roads. But ultimately the taxpayer has to pay for it. Has to pay for Star Avenue to be widened. And when I say that it's larger than the rest of the city, what I hope that you envision is that you envision, what does the 23rd Street, what does the 98, what does the 231 and all these other roads, 77, what do those look like in this space in the next 50 years? And so the idea here is that if a developer wants to come up to that area and build, then they're going to help with the capacity that they're bringing upon the rest of the citizens. And that's the whole idea behind this. It is highly, highly regulated by the state. We're not able to just do whatever we want with it. It has to stay in a separate fund, only to be used for capacity. So it's not something that it's not a money grab by any means, because again, we have to put it in a special pot that can't be used for anything but capacity. And I'm telling you, I've got a lot of capacity issues in Panama City North. So,
And if I may, Commissioner,
Go ahead.
one additional point, just to make sure that both the commission and the public is tracking, media is tracking this. So anything collected in Panama City North has to be used in Panama City North. Anything collected in Panama City proper has to be used in Panama City proper. So we're not going to, try to collect a bunch of stuff, from down here and move it up there or vice versa. And so, again, our goal is just to cover the cost of capacity needs as the city grows. I think that's kind of a succinct way, thank you, Ms. Waldron, to just kind of state that that's kind of what we're looking to do. So
I think that we also have to worry about stopping growth, and I don't know the answer. I'm just asking questions because, like the builders here have talked about, if you're going to cost $75,000 to build a dental clinic, then the dental clinic's probably not going to get built. So, we need roads, but we don't want to stop growth. And I don't have a genie that I can pull out of a bottle to make money, but obviously the idea of Star Avenue from 22 to 231 is a good idea. It's a great idea. It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. The question is how, are there other ways? Could we do a gas tax? Would we have to go to the state and ask them for a gas tax, or is that impossible?
We actually get a local option gas share now. It's just under $1 million annually. The state gives us that back on the tax they collect.
Okay, we need to ask them for more.
We don't get more. It's how it's allocated, sir, by population.
Well, could we make a local tax just in Bay County?
I believe we're precluded by the state because they already collect the tax. Jan's shaking her head, so I'm right.
Yeah.
this is one of the few revenue sources that the state allows municipalities to do. And I wish there was another.
The transportation impact.
Yeah, and to Commissioner Granger's point, they do allow it, and there's other, like Walton County does it, Callaway, the beach, they'll either call them transportation impact fees or mobility fees or something, that's another name they're called, so.
But they're not the same price as what we're suggesting.
No, they instituted theirs decades ago.
Yeah. But some of them are still pretty high, even though they haven't been updated in a while.
So we're not voting on this today.
All you're voting on today is whether to bring it back as we recommend, or table it indefinitely, or pick a different date.
So we've heard today from BBIA, they came and I want to continue to work with them on this. I think that we have a few more things we probably should iron out with it. Because like you said, Mayor, I don't want to kill all the growth, right? I don't want to, but to some degree, the growth, if it's unrestrained, is causing the problem, right? I mean, to some degree, if the more people that you add to a community, if you don't have, if you can't widen your roads and you can't add more capacity to the roads, you're just going to have more traffic, and it's going to get worse for everybody. So there needs to be some kind of mechanism there that helps with that. And I don't think that they're completely against it. I think they're just against it in its current form. So what I'm asking, and I guess what I'm motioning is that that we put this off until let's do a time indefinite. Let me think this through real quick.
While you're thinking, I'd like to add to your thoughts the suggestion from Mr. Jones that the study is not in a fully finished form. If there is further questions, I guess, to be answered by the examples that have been given to us, that if you're going to say indefinite, let's say what we want accomplished in that indefinite time.
So one of the things that I wanted was a map of like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what we're trying to do. The problem is that as soon as you do that, then you can't use these dollars for it. So it's like a chicken and an egg kind of a situation. And I realize that they're asking for that, and it's not an unreasonable ask. But it is definitely one of those things that could hamstring us. As soon as we provide it, then we pass it, and then now you're stuck.
Have we considered a phase-in approach?
Well, that's what I've suggested, 50%. You could, if you wanted to, you could put that out 5 years and do 50% for the first 5 years, and then the second 5 years go to 100%. I do know we have a little bit more runway in front of us than we would if we were trying to make an increase after 4 years. I don't know if Mr. Zimmerman or Mr. Burke want to speak to that. I know we have a little bit more runway, but we can't really do it indefinitely. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Mr. Burke?
Okay.
Brian,
I just remember that came up, and I don't remember the specifics of it, so.
are you suggesting that, I think you're kind of going there by saying indefinitely, maybe that this is something that still needs to be worked on, and that, we obviously have new elected officials that are going to be coming on. Is that, that it's going to impact a lot of what's going forward, and I just didn't know if...
I know that when I got up here, there was some things that had just been decided. I get that that's part of the job, but man, that's a rough one sometimes, It's I think one of y'all's requests was to postpone it until the new commission was installed, right? I think that's also probably a reasonable request, just because there's going to be one person on that board that's going to be there for 4 years dealing with this, and they may have opinions on it.
So you're not going to ready to make a motion quite yet?
I guess I'm not.
I want to let Mr. Burke talk, and then we'll ask you for a motion. So what's your thinking cap on?
Yeah. Thank you.
I would. The question I think I've been drawn up here for is the phasing approach.
There was a thought we had a year from the time of the study, and that's not true. But we do have a definitive timeline.
As Commissioner Granger pointed out, this is a highly regulated part of your ability to collect in order to fund your city and improvements. And based on that is once you adopt this, you will not be allowed to change it except every 4 years. So that once you set it in place, you won't be able to change it every 4 years. And when you do get to that 4-year period, you have to do a phase in depending on the amount of the increase in the impact fee that you propose to go along with it. So it is very regulated. I will little editorial, I think, probably because places much further south than here have abused the ability to collect the fee.
No.
I share your shock, Commissioner, but and over the course of time, it has become you've got to take it in steps, because you do need to be mindful of what the impact is going to be on the next person. The flip side of that too is that in order to have continuing to grow and progress, and this was Commissioner Granger's point too, was you've got to be able to fund the impacts, because if you have 2.5-hour waits on John Pitts Road or Star Avenue, you won't worry about collecting the impact fee because nobody's going to buy a home up there to sit and wait. And that there are plenty of studies that have borne that out as well. As far as the indefinite, I would ask you to set a time, because we are getting to a point now, the 1 year, the 1 year part is part of that regulation, is that when you begin to do an update to the study, you must complete the adoption of the ordinance within the 1 year period. We are not in that because you are adopting this for the first time. But you are beginning to approach, in my opinion, a point where we might have a stale study. And that doesn't mean, the study actually is complete. Mr. Jones I don't think that was his point there, was maybe there were more questions, I think is what he was really asking. But the study is complete. It's been done. It's ready for you to adopt. If there are things that we need to make, daycare being one of them, some of the other things, then you have that opportunity. But I would recommend that you set a date to have that, and perhaps we go back to more workshops or roundtables if there are other things to work out with that.
I like Brian's idea of allowing the new commission because it is a big decision to make, and we could give them time to get updated, sit with you, learn, sit with the builders, do that. But that's just, I agree with you, Brian. If I could certainly get behind that if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I certainly don't want this to be something that feels like we're just, ramming this home, if that makes sense. I want it to be very, very deliberative and thought through before we execute on anything like this.
So would we need to pick a date?
I recommend that you do, but I appreciate the concern. I do, but I wouldn't be doing a good job if I didn't tell you that you're stretching yourself.
I would say probably the first meeting in July. I think that's an ample time for the new folks to get briefed up, have time to reach out to the community shareholders and partners that we have, and to formulate a educated opinion on it.
So may I recommend that you set the first reading then for that first meeting in July so that we can adjust it between then?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of second reading, but first reading is fine too.
Do we have to do a first reading again?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did the
sorry.
first reading.
That's the second reading. Yes, we've done that, and we are continuing to.
So July 8th is what you're recommending, Commissioner?
Yes, that would be the adoption date, is what I should have said.
So, yeah, I motion that we set July 8th as the second reading of this ordinance. I also include in my motion that sometime in June that we have a workshop to discuss this.
That's a workshop with the commission?
With the commission.
And you'd have the new commissioners involved?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Any discussion?
Just a clarity, the Mr. Jones they were referencing was Mr. Patrick Jones, not Mr. Jones up there.
I know, I was like, did you say that? And he goes, no.
That's funny.
As far as discussion, I would like to have as many workshops as possible to bring these people in because they're very interested, as you well know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've talked to them. They've come to us several times. I want to take very, very careful steps with this and not just bull in a china shop.
Excellent. So we have a motion and a second to move it to July 8th. Any further discussion? Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 10B, is consideration to award a contract for the invitation to bid, or ITB, for bid PC 25-028, Project Hometown Revitalization, Glen Cove, to RCL Emerald Coast LLC in the amount of $2,716,208.00, and providing a contingency amount of $75,000.00. As background information, an invitation for bid was advertised by the city on November 22nd of 2024 to secure competitive bids for the CDBG-DR Project Hometown Revitalization Glen Cove project. Two proposals were received by city staff on February 12th of 2025. The lowest responsive bid was from RCL Emerald Coast LLC in the amount of $2,746,401.00, which included alternates that were not selected. Staff would like to award the bid to RCL Emerald Coast LLC in the amount of $2,716,208.00. The project will be funded by a CDBG-DR grant amount of $2,300,000.00 and an additional amount of $490,814.01 funded by the business owner prior to the notice to proceed being issued. A budget amendment will be approved at a later date to accept the additional funds from the business owner to pay for this project. The following documents are enclosed with this agenda item: the tabulation of bids, the proposed contract with RCL Emerald Coast LLC, and the payment obligation from the business owner as an addendum to the grant agreement. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission award ITB PC 25-028 to RCL Emerald Coast LLC in the amount of $2,716,208.00 for the construction of the project CDBG-DR Hometown Revitalization Glen Cove, and authorizing the city manager to execute any change orders not to exceed $75,000. And I just want to point out there's a typo. It is bid PC 25028. Apologies for that. Mr. Mayor?
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve PC 25-028?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, under discussion, I've pointed this out before, but this business was not established until 2022, so it doesn't really it doesn't really meet what the grant says, though the lawyers have said it's okay. So I think we should have changed the grant rather than modified the grant. So that's my hang up. Would you call the roll, please, Ms. Smith?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
No.
Motion passes 3-1.
Just Mayor, the lawyers include my firm, but also most importantly, that was always my opinion, that the grant was appropriately being used. But most importantly, the lawyers with the Office of General Counsel for the state of Florida, because after you did ask the questions, we did follow up and they concurred with our opinion.
Thank you.
All right. Item 10C is consideration to approve Resolution 202-504-24.1, authorizing the City of Panama City to accept the state-funded grant for the Tarpon Dock Bridge refurbishment in the amount of $400,000 and to approve Budget Amendment Resolution 202-504-24.3. I don't know if those are those resolutions in conflict? Or is that correct? I apologize.
We at 10C?
There's two resolutions.
Okay, there's two resolutions, yes. So we are requesting approval for Resolution 202-504-24.1 and .3. As background information, the Utilities Division of the Public Works Department is requesting approval of Resolution 202-504-24.3, authorizing the city to accept state-funded grant managed by the Florida Department of Transportation for the Tarpon Dock Bridge refurbishment and water main installation, engineering and design for a maximum cost of up to $400,000 with FDOT's participation not exceeding 88.9%. Staff recommendation to the Director of Public Works is that the Commission approve this agenda item.
All right, looks like there's two items here. Is there a motion to approve 2025-04-24.1?
Absolutely. I'll move a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has approved Resolution 2025-04-24.1, a resolution of the City Commission of the City authorizing the city to accept a state-funded grant for the Tarpon Dock Bridge refurbishment and enter into the agreement.
And
All
you need
right.
to approve the budget amendment resolution as well.
We're going to see if anybody will approve the, the request resolution of 2025-04-24.3 to accept a state-funded grant managed by the DOT.
I'll move a motion to approve.
Just for clarity, the .3 is the budget amendment resolution, not the resolution to support the grant.
Second.
Yeah.
So the first one is the money and the second one's the budget.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's
And we approved the first one. And we have a motion and a second, did we?
Just a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission adopted Resolution 2025-04-24.3, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 24-25 budget to utilize and expend FDOT grant funding for the Tarpon Dock Bridge refurbishment and water main installation, engineering, and design with the match to be funded by infrastructure surtax funds.
Item 10D is consideration to approve to enter into a lease agreement with Bancorp Municipal to purchase two vehicles for the Panama City Fire Department in the amount of $140,955.00 and the approval of the associated budget amendment resolution 202-504-24.2. As background information, the City of Panama City entered into a master lease agreement with Bancorp Municipal on February 11th of 2025. The Panama City Fire Department is requesting to enter into a lease agreement with Bancorp Municipal to purchase two vehicles for our Fire Prevention Division in the amount of $140,955.00. The lease agreement will be for a term of 72 months with an annual payment of $27,457. The purchase of these vehicles is being funded by revenue funds from the Fire Protection Service revenues. This request is also to request approval of Budget Amendment Resolution 202-504-24.2 to use these revenue funds to purchase these two vehicles. Staff recommendation through the Fire Chief is that the Commission approve this request.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the Budget Amendment Resolution 2025-04-24.2?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, under discussion, I'd like to know, it says 2 vehicles. Are these trucks or what? Do we have any idea what they are?
Yeah, they're 2 Chevy Silverado 1500 style trucks.
So they're trucks?
Pickup trucks.
Pickup trucks, okay.
Yeah, so this is from revenue derived from bringing our permitting in-house, so the fire inspection fees that Developer Services currently collects. So this is revenue that we've already collected.
All right, Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Commission has approved Resolution 2020-50424.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 24-25 budget to purchase 2 vehicles for the fire department through a lease with Bancorp.
Item 10E is to consideration to approve a task order from Panhandle Engineering for professional engineering services related to the Chapman Park Improvement Project. As background information, the city has received task order number 2024001 from Panhandle Engineering for professional engineering service related to the Chapman Park improvements with a total proposed fee of $0. The task order includes surveying, design, permitting, and construction administration services to support planned upgrades in the refurbishment at Chapman Park. The scope of work specifically involves the preparation of construction documents for a conceptual site plan featuring 2 200-foot baseball fields. These proposed improvements support the city's ongoing commitment to enhancing recreational amenities for the community. The task order is attached as Exhibit A, and the conceptual site plan showing the proposed layout of the 2 baseball fields is included as Exhibit B. As the project is being fully funded by private donors, no public bidding is required. Panhandle Engineering is proposed to provide all costs associated with professional services to the city at no cost, with an estimated value of $201,000. The estimated construction cost for the project is approximately $2 million. Staff recommendation through the Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation and the City Manager's Office is the Commission approve this agenda item. And I'll just add that we're going to be in very similar fashion to how Mr. Mefford has worked with community leaders and stakeholders who desire to help pay their civic rent and beautify our city at the Bay Memorial Park with the building of the Garden Club. We've already had kind of a meeting of a bunch of businessmen and women in the community that played baseball here in the 70s and 80s that want to help put forward a myriad of resources, whether it be professional services like Mr. Forehand has offered, or whether it be financial contributions or construction. There was, I think, probably 14 or 15 folks that kind of came to this meeting that really want to see this. And I know Commissioner Granger would love to see a park in Ward 3 because it's sorely lacking. So that's the recommendation, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve task order 2024-01?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Let me ask one question. It says it's going to cost $2 million and it's all private?
That's the plan, yes.
So,
pardon me?
So what's happening here is that the estimated cost for this park to be turned back into 2 baseball fields, because that's what it was before Hurricane Michael, is about $2 million. However, as the city manager was saying, there's a lot of community buy-in for this, and so there's a lot of folks out there that are pitching in to make this happen at a very low cost, if any cost, to the city. And so I'd like to say thank you to Panhandle Engineering for designing and engineering all this for free. I mean, this is, in order for us to build something, we got to have a plan, right? So, and they're doing this for free. And so thank you. And thank you to Keith, because Keith's been trying to put this together. He's been working on it for quite a long time. And he has brought the community together over it to pitch different resources. I mean, we had one guy saying, "I'll give you all the dirt you want." And another fellow saying, "Hey, we'll put down the stuff if you need it," and it's all born out of just the love of baseball and the love of community. So
sounds like a lot of kudos are going to be necessary here.
Oh,
and that's good.
Definitely.
That's good.
And
So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Smith, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Motion to adjourn.
I was about to say, Brian.
Second.
Is there a second?
Your job, Brian, is to do that
Second.
every time.
That's right. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Smith, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Halagus?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Mayor Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Meeting adjourned.